Primordial Creatures of Pandemonium is a game that puts in kind of some tableau building, some map movement, some little tracks you can move on. It has creatures, it has resource allocation, it has a bunch of stuff mixed in. Does that all work well together? Well, stick around after the brief how to play, and I'll tell you if I think it does. Here we are, mostly set up for Primordial Creatures of Pandemonium. I will start out by saying that this is a prototype copy, so contents and components may and will change in the production copy. Check below for a link to the campaign to see what is actually being offered in the final version. So you're going to have your common creatures. They have a number from 1 to 5 on the bottom. You're going to stack them 1 through 5, put them face up here. You're going to shuffle the skill cards. You're going to place those there. You're going to shuffle the other creatures, place them here, and deal out 6. You're going to set up the landscape based on number of players. This is a 2-player setup. You are going to have the score track out here. You are going to have the astral spread and entropic spread cards out here. And based on player count, putting a specific number on, 10 astral, 20 entropic. You'll have the phase shift marker and phase shift tracker off here to the side. Each player is then going to grab a player board and all the pieces in their color, which is these 4 books and their mage. You're going to be setting up this bag with 10 of each color. This is also based on player count. Then each person is going to move one of their books 2 spaces, one of their books 1 space, and then they're going to collect everything that is underneath their books. So let's say we move this one there, this one there. I am going to gain 2 entropic coming from the spread, 1 blue, which comes from the bag, like so, and then 1 skill card. You are then going to grab 3 energy from the bag to fill up each spot. You will then grab 1 entropic and 1 astral energy for the center tile. Determine a start player. They suggest whoever likes animals the most. Otherwise, choose it however you wish. They will start at 0. Second player will start at 1 point, and then so on for third and fourth player. You are then ready to begin. So everyone's first turn is needing to place their mage somewhere on the map. From that point on, during your turn, you can traverse and move along the map, but your first one always needs to be putting them somewhere on the map. We are going to say put them right here. You are then going to collect all the energy on the tile, put it over into your energy pool. You then can take actions as depicted on your board. This top part is once per turn actions. This bottom one is no limit actions. Your once per turn actions is traverse. Again, not done on the first turn, but in subsequent turns, traversing is just moving to an adjacent spot on the map and then collecting all the energy. If there is a mage in your way like so, you can jump in a straight line across, giving that mage 1 honor on the honor track, and then collecting this, but it needs to be in a straight line, so you could not U-shape it up to there. The next thing you can do is you can study. You can spend 1 of your energy. So in this instance, I could spend my purple to move the purple book up, and then do what's covered, which is a skill card. This goes to the bag, as is any other energy spent. Your next option is you can meditate, which is just like study, except you're spending 2 of the same color to move that book, so I could move my book if I spent those 2. So that is your once per turn actions. Your no limit actions is you can play skill cards. Skill cards have certain abilities. For instance, this Memory of the Elephant is spend 1 entropic to get 1 of your choice and 1 point. Or Intelligence of the Crow, spend 1 basic to get 2 entropic. Whenever you gain entropic or astral, they always come from the spread cards until those are depleted. Next thing you can do is you can transform. You can discard 2 skill cards to get 1 point and 1 entropic energy. You can transmute by taking 3 basic energy and turning them in for 1 astral energy. Finally, you can tame. To tame, you are going to look at the creatures out here and attempt to spend what's below them, and you need to be what is depicted up here. So me being on this fire hex, I can tame these hobgoblins, I can tame the Jackalope because it needs to be everywhere, and I could tame Cerberus based on up here. But I'm going to look, and I do not have the required energy to be able to spend. So that's when I can look around, and you know what? I think maybe let's go ahead and play the Intelligence of the Crow. Let's discard our green, which is going to give us 2 Entropic. We are then going to do the Jackalope by spending our 3 Entropic. We grab them. We have Entropic Spread. We put one of these cubes on the tile with where we are at. We are then going to take the Jackalope and put it into one of these spots, triggering an ability that is down below. This one is move one of your books to the right and then get what you cover. This is get 1 point for all basic energy in your energy pool. This would be move your mage 1 spot and then take a basic energy from that tile. This is 1 point for all skill cards you have, and then this is just 1 energy. So if we go right here, then I have 2 basic energy. That would give me 2 points. I get the points listed on the creature, which is 2 points. And this has an instant ability of where I could turn 1 basic energy in for 2 Entropic. I am going to pass on that. I saw my skill card, and that would be all of taming. This gets replaced. The other option when you tame, if you have creatures all the way out here, or if you just want to cover one up, you'll take it and you can just place it over it. However, the creature underneath is now inactive, and if they have an endgame scoring or once per turn ability, you are no longer able to use that, for it is covered and inactive. After you are done taking your turn, at the end of your turn, you are going to gain an astral energy if you did not tame a creature this turn. After that, you are going to discard down to 5 energy, not counting your entropic energy. You're going to make sure you have 3 skill cards in hand, and then you're going to add energy to the landscape. So any that are showing this little asterisk, you will fill those, and then if this is empty, you'll be grabbing energy from over there. And that would be the end of your turn. You and your opponent are going to be going back and forth, until all of the entropic energy is depleted. At that point, the active player is going to flip this over. They are going to take the phase shift token, and they are going to be taking this phase shift tracker token and putting on a number based on players. This is a 2-player, so it goes on the 5. What's going to happen then is every time it comes back to the person who has the token, they are going to push the marker down. When it gets pushed off the track, that is the end of the game. The game is played almost the same way once that is flipped over. The main difference is when you tame creatures, you do not place out entropic energy. And whenever you spend entropic energy, so in this instance, you can spend 3 entropic energy as anything. So if I spend all of this to grab this Kraken, these would go to the bag, but these 3 entropic that I spent would go on the board to my player color for end of game scoring. Astral energy, as you'll see here, you can spend astral energy as anything, but you cannot spend astral as entropic, and you cannot spend entropic as astral. So once this has moved off, you're going to move to end of game scoring. You are going to lose a point for every entropic energy left in your energy pool. You are going to gain a point for every astral energy left in your energy pool. You are going to score any end of game scoring, such as the Cerberus is 1 point for all of the red symbols on your tamed creatures, whether they're active or not. As long as they're down here, they are tamed. And then you're going to look to see who has the most entropic energy will get 9 points, the second most 6, and so forth. In addition to all those other things you'll be scoring, you're going to be scoring based on where your books have reached. If they've reached these areas, they're going to get 3 points. This area, you are going to be getting 6 points. A couple of quick things I do want to go over is you'll see some of these have this little 1 with the arrow around it. Those are once turn abilities, so as long as you have them down here, you can do their once a turn ability, which in this instance is spend a red to get a skill card. If you covered this one here, and as I said, you move and then take a basic energy, if you would take this purple, these would slide down. And then when you refill energy, do not refill that yet, though, because the asterisk is not showing. In regards to your board, Once you have reached the end of these tracks, you'll see these also are one-time abilities that you can do once per turn. And the last thing I want to go over is if at any point all of the astral energy is depleted, you are going to flip this over. Then all players are going to choose one of the following immediately. So that is the basics on how to play Primordial Creatures of Pandemonium. There are a couple little smaller rules that will be discovered as you play, but let's go ahead and hear my thoughts on this. Let's cut to the chase, and I enjoyed the way all of those intricacies and mechanisms did work well together in this. So let me explain why. First off, this game does what I wish a lot of other games would do, and that is it lets you have big turns. A lot of times games will have like, here's these 17 things you can do. Cool, how many can I do? One. You can do one on your turn. This one's like, all right, you can move in a map. You can now push up your books. Those books might let you do stuff. And now you're going to be able to tame creatures. By taming creatures, you're going to be able to put that down here and possibly trigger other things. And you have these skill cards that allow you to do stuff. So it does allow for big turns. The flip side of that, though, is there is some downtime between turns in this game. We played it at 2 players, so it wasn't as bad. That downtime can, though, allow you to start kind of planning out your move and figuring out where exactly you want to go and how you want your turn to go. But just know that as people are doing big turns, you are going to be kind of observing them more so and starting to try and plan out your turn. Another part of the mechanisms I really like are those skill cards. The powers on them are really cool, really powerful if you can pull them off at the right times. But even if you're not a fan of the skill cards you have, once you get enough of them, you can turn them in for points and that entropic energy. You can then use that entropic energy because certain creatures need it. Or there are certain parts on the book tracks where you're going to be able to possibly turn that entropic energy into something. There's even creatures that have one-time abilities that you can use it. So even if you are unable to use the skill cards, don't want to use them for their abilities, you do have that way of getting rid of them as opposed to just discarding them and cycling through that way. You can have a benefit from getting rid of them. So it's almost like that waste not, want not. You're being able to utilize it for another way. And then the other thing that we did find surprising about this game was it almost seemed like the entropic energy ran out quick on that spread. So we thought it was going to be a really quick game. Like, oh my God, that's going so quick. I guess we're playing through a quick game, what have you. But no, once that flips over and you have those 5 turns left, that is really seems to be when the game really ramps up. You are really starting to build up those bigger turns. You have more stuff maneuvering now that you can do. You almost have that countdown clock, which also means the end isn't going to spring up on you. You can start planning for it. You can be like, all right, I know I have this many turns, so I want to try and make sure I get this moving. I have this end of game goal I need to focus on. Now is when I can focus on it. So kind of having almost like a midway point to the game of, all right, now my plans have to change. And now you're going to be wanting to spend that entropic energy so you can start getting it on that board for those end of game points. But one of the things I didn't cover is if you have to grab entropic energy and there's none on the spread, then the next thing you go to is in the bag. Well, if there's none in the bag, then you go to the tiles. Well, if there's none in the tiles, guess what? Then everyone's going to start taking the energy off of that board. So then all the energy you spent might start slowly being grabbed and moving into other people's. So just that entropic energy being this push, pull, like, do you want to go through it quick on the spread card, or do you kind of like delay that so you can kind of get more stuff going for those final 5 turns? It really is that kind of like almost like push your luck, tug of war type of style mechanism that we enjoy. At 2 players, the map did seem to be a little bit tight where you want it to go, and the whole jumping in a straight line, I think we utilized that once, maybe twice from what I remember. I remember we didn't use it much, if at all, because you're basically kind of just, person's very rarely in that middle spot for you to jump over. So I believe in a higher player count where the map's kind of bigger and fleshed out more, that may become more utilized. It might be easier to get to certain tiles. But in a 2-player version, that map did seem a little bit tight, having to maneuver, like kind of almost like it's going to cost you 2 turns to get to the other side of the map, as opposed to possibly having that type of terrain near you. Another thing this game did well is even though the components are a work in progress and could change here and there, they have the bare bones of it set up. I really enjoyed the player board. I love when they have a player board that makes sense. It has the game mechanic of moving the books along. It's got your bonuses down here. It lists all of your actions over here. It lists how you can spend your energy over here. So being able to be just this whole focal point of information that will help people learn the game, that will help mitigate any questions during the game, that is extremely helpful. It had the whole end of round listed there. And then for the end of game scoring being listed on the bottom of that round tracker. I always enjoy when games are able to put that information in there, because inevitably at some point Brian will ask me, all right, so what's the end of game scoring again? I can be like, it's right there. What do I do on my turn? It's right there. So it kind of helps focalize it to where you're not having to constantly go back to the rule book or trying to look up this rule or what can I all do on my turn. So I really enjoy when games are able to give the players all the information they need in a concise way that they can easily reference to keep that game flow moving and going forward. So that is my thoughts on Primordial, Creatures of Pandemonium. If you want to find out more, I'll have a link to the campaign down below. Go ahead and check that out. See all the fun, cool things that they are putting into this game and what they have done with it. And while you're down there, if you could please go ahead and like, subscribe, comment, share, and ring the bell for this channel in this video. That is all appreciated. So until next time, Pandemonium!